Okay, so one of the reasons why I ventured into podcasting instead of continuing to do my PhD full time was because it was becoming evident to me that there was a serious lack of will, at least on the humanities part, to engage with the real world on, well, the pejoratively cited culture war issues, other than those which specifically prop up intersectionalist ideas. It's been my belief for a long time that the universities at least have become institutionally closed systems of thoughts that no longer really have any incentive to make actual academic contributions. It's regrettable to have to say it, but it's true. And there's a particular lack of will to address something that everyone knows to be true, namely that the philosophy of intersectionality has so many contradictions in it that it's as laughable as it is depressing, that no one has put it to the sword quite like the critical theorists did with Enlightenment. The academics at present earn an awful lot of money from working within very close, intimate circles that don't have any correspondence really with the real world, I would argue, and many of them are just sheep, to be perfectly honest, who just parrots the exact same things that they know will hit the spot in their social circles because it's convenient for them.
They're like incantations, aren't they?
They are pretty much.
You know, if you've got a certain set of things, and if you just say them in the right way, then they'll all agree, oh, that was exactly what you should have done.
Yeah, and they take great money from doing precisely this. And to a point you can sympathise, because of course they want to provide their family, spend their spare time with people they care about and just have an easy life in general. But to be perfectly honest, if you're an academic, you should be concerned about pursuing what's important, making an academic contribution, actually using the universities for what they are for.
Contributing to the intellectual life and history of the West.
Yes, precisely. And whilst, of course, there was a lot of criticism aimed at the Frankfurt School, it's worth remembering that they were very much at the front line of disambiguating a lot of this groupthink, like that sheep-like quality that human nature seems to acquire in the face of authoritarianism, and well, how there are no ends to how human behaviour can be mutilated in the absence of the primal father. But the universities aggressively, as I've said, have turned into the exact thing that the Frankfurt School feared, a totalistic, closed system of thought unwilling to look outside of the paradigm of which they have already accepted. And this is becoming increasingly evident in their policies. Which
they're like Marcuse's sort of capitalist man, where he was saying, well, he watches his TV, drinks his beer, and then goes to work. And they do the same thing in the universities.
Yeah, it's basically the closest thing to forced opposition you can possibly imagine. They've quite literally they've become progressive in image, but bourgeois in reality.
What a shock.
Yes. They are, as a matter of fact, there is actually a specific chapter in the Communist Manifesto for people like that. What is it? Conservative socialists, I think Marx calls them.
I'd have to go reread it.
Yes. But I was very, very disappointed to find this over here. This was sent to me by one of our viewers, so thank you very much for sending that. But it's a very generous scholarship that only non-whites can apply for.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow, okay. How many scholarships do they have for only whites?
As far as I'm concerned, none.
Because that would be illegal, wouldn't it?
Because that would be illegal, because that would be racist.
I'm reasonably sure this is illegal as well.
Yeah, so am I, but it's up. You can still apply to it if any of us identify as something other than white.
Maybe I could identify as something other than white.
Yeah, perhaps we should.
I mean, how are they going to know?
Yeah, well, if you self-identify, there's no way they can prove otherwise.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's a very, very generous scholarship. The scholarship details are as follows: UK home rate tuition fees 3 years, stipend for 3.5 years. You can actually enjoy this or do this for as long as 6 years if you want. And will you get a £15,609 per year stipend if you do it full time?
So tax-free full-time, you get paid
tax-free,
$15K.
That's what you get to live on. That's effectively a wage that you earn. That's what a stipend is in academia. Yeah. And that's far more than any scholarship that is available at the Department of Philosophy for anyone.
But I mean, an academic at this level would be probably writing their own books and things like that. Right?
Yes.
Writing articles for newspapers and things. You know, they'd be making money in other ways.
Yes, they would. But there are many PhD students who don't get this sort of funding. And end up, me, for example, I'm funding this entirely myself.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid to say to the University of York that I don't really see, at least from my lived experience.
Look at the open to candidates who self-identify as being black, Asian, or minority ethnic background and have a UK home rate fee status.
Yes. So what they're doing is basically assuming that white people are pretty much all rich and that there isn't possibly any suffering that could be.
I mean, there are no poor white people in England. Everyone knows that.
Yeah.
Just unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah. But unfortunately, whenever this purge against the actually based academics starts, they can actually, we could identify as transracial, of course, but But all of this is very
We've
much
got no choice.
Yeah, I mean, all of this is very much part of a broader programme, surprise, surprise, and I'm quoting their language here, to redress systemic inequalities and disadvantages experienced by Black, Asian and ethnic minority staff, postgraduate researchers and students. We consider the benefits to research quality that come from belonging to a diverse community to be important, which of course translates to saying that there are far too many whites and they just want less of them, irrespective of the quality of their research and the research of those who replace them.
And ironically, I'm absolutely certain this is an illegal form of discrimination. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you could feel free to report this to the police.
Yeah.
They're not going to do anything, but this is at least something that is illegal.
Yeah. Well, perhaps somebody should.
Yeah.
Wink, wink. But to go in greater detail, the scholarship has been introduced in virtue of this. The University of York Equality, Diversity and Inclusion homepage, which has got to be the most dispiriting thing you can actually see of as an advocate of actual post-racialism.
I can't wait to talk about race and racialism.
Yeah.
Oh, God, it's going to be so fun.
But all you have to do is have a look at the tabs if you scroll down a little bit more. Yeah. Response to the Black Lives Matter movement. Let's educate ourselves.
Race Equality Coordination Group. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Staff Race Equality Forum. I wish I was a fly on the wall, to be honest. But you as a white person have a place. You can see that. How to be a white ally.
Yes.
We all have a responsibility to learn more about racism and to become an ally, as in you have to learn how you're the problem.
Should we have a look at how to be a white ally?
Yes.
Yes, let's have a look at that. Yeah, this isn't comfortable to read, I'm afraid, when we actually get to it. It says, even if you haven't experienced or witnessed racism yourself, you can learn more about racism and racial inequality and become an ally to those who are affected.
This is full on SJW takeover,
Yeah, it
isn't
is.
it?
Listen to what Black people and those from minority ethnic backgrounds have to say. Listen to their experiences.
Okay.
Promote the work of Black people within your teaching and research to friends and family on social media.
Why? Because they're Black.
Yes.
That's why. The sole justification is they are Black.
See, I want to be able to laugh at this sincerely, but I can't because it's actually really quite...
It's absolutely pernicious.
Listening to people and their experiences is part and parcel of recognising people as people. And to suggest that we've denied this to Black people at universities before Black Lives Matter even came about is so misguided and egregious, I do not know where to start.
But it's also awful because, I mean, like, literally, this is the antebellum South argument, right? This is, you're going to listen to the white man, Mr. Black Man. Why? Because he's white and you're Black.
Yes.
That's why.
And you're privileged because you just are.
Well, it's not even that. You're just the fact that he's white gives him knowledge that you don't have because you're Black. And you can't have because you're Black. So you're going to listen to him because he's white. And this is just the exact same thing the other way around. Listen to these Black people. Why? Because they're Black and you're white.
It's apartheid in reverse.
Absolutely. It's
there's
awful.
There's no other way of putting this.
It's so unbelievably racist.
I know.
Like, I hate calling things racist because it's so gauche, right? It's like, oh, yeah, that's racist. Yeah, I know it's racist. We know they're racist.
Yeah. But it actually says...
But it's really bad.
Learn about racism and racial inequality. Acknowledge your own privilege.
I mean, you're gonna get a lot of racist experience from this.
We all have it. Understand and take responsibility for yours. Obviously, they're pointing the finger at Whitey.
Am I supposed to be proud?
No, clearly.
Like, the more I look into it, the more...
Yeah. Well, I know I've tried to say this already, but all I can say in confidence is that I've felt no privileges whatsoever from being white and a male at the University of York.
I can imagine.
Yes, and partly for that reason is, well, because they and other universities, not just the University of York, are doing everything possible to present people in virtue of their whiteness and their maleness as bad because of those two things.
It just seems
that has consequences for how their students are going to be perceived. If they're perceived to be implicit in a systemic pathology before they even introduce themselves as people.
You're deliberately setting up a privileged racial class and disenfranchising and alienating another racial class. The majority, incidentally, I imagine, which turns this into an aristocracy.
Yes.
This is awful.
It's horrendous. But I'm afraid it actually gets a little bit worse.
Of course it does.
And I'm going to have to move on to another case that again is a viewer, another student who got in contact with me. He's a first-year law undergraduate student at City University, London. And again, I'm very, very grateful. But in short, one of his lecturers seems to be doing everything he possibly can to peddle Black Lives Matter propaganda. So if we could get the first clip up here. Now, what this is a tutorial instruction sheet where the students are basically placed into groups to discuss current hot topics of police and prison abolition. And put simply, if you take a look at the content that's been included.
Oh, well, I can see exactly
You
what
can
we're
see
looking at.
exactly
This
what's
is
going
like
on
the
here.
Guardian article. Defund the police is not nonsense. Here's what it really means.
Yes.
Article: Abolition as a solution to gender-based violence. How does police abolition work? What does defund the police actually mean? Man, there's a lot of cope about this defund the police. Viewpoint. What would a world without prisons be like? It'd be like California, actually.
Yeah.
Instantly.
This is City University.
Unbelievable.
As in the law school of City University.
Police have been accused of unlawful tactics at London's BLM protests. Yeah, well, okay, the university is being accused of unlawful hiring practices.
See,
now?
Can you spot any nuance here whatsoever?
Well, I mean, there's no counter-arguments that are being made.
Yes. How about the idea that maybe George Floyd wasn't murdered but killed?
Yeah. Maybe. How about the idea that
just as a counterweight?
But also, how about George Floyd wasn't even killed? George Floyd died of a drug overdose.
Yes.
That's which the medical science would have a strong argument to launch from. But anyway.
Yes. But yes, if we move on to the next one, we can actually see what the introductory lecture was like on the foundations of criminal law.
Oh yeah.
Yes. And I believe that was the formative. The previous one was a formative assessment. This is actually what he was being taught in his introductory lecture. So I thought we could just have a quick browse through all of this.
See, now before we get on,
this is a funny way to start, isn't it?
No. Before we start though, I spoke to Helen Dale probably about a year or so ago because she's a lawyer. She's got legal training. And she was like, well, luckily the institutions like this are generally outside of the effect of the radical left because they've got their own internal culture and they've got their own internal logic that they operate under, and therefore these are generally still quite good. And I think we're about to see that may have changed.
Somewhat, a lot. Yeah. So let's begin. If we move on. So
criminal law module team, and it's a bunch of people.
I mean, this one's quite mild. You can see that they've introduced the pronouns thing.
Yeah, and
they have a picture of, was it Lewis? Does that look like? No, that's not Lewis Hamilton.
I have no idea who that is.
No,
but it looks like a very diverse module team.
Yes, very diverse module team.
They have to pronounce the lecturer's name because it's such a foreign name. Greetja, apparently. Pronouns they, them. So it's Greetja Bars, Kasana Wiener, Dr. Andrew Wollman, Kyle Murray, Shajid Chowdhury, and John Taggart. Right.
They've moved on to the next because there are more next.
So that's the course.
We might want to go a bit further on. Yes, this is where we actually begin to see what's going on here.
So an independent article revealed how racial bias at the heart of criminal justice system means black people in the UK are more likely to be in prison than those in the US. How is this not just a YouTube video?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, this is just exactly what we do. Here's a thing that's happened.
Yeah. And you think students are actually paying for this?
Yeah.
Paying for the nuance?
Yeah. You guys get to watch our stuff for free.
Yeah.
But you could pay us if you wanted and sign up to the website.
Yeah, and they just had to admit that the UK is the highest rate of imprisonment. What is that?
Black people.
Black people in Europe.
Okay, well,
yes.
Doesn't that speak to the criminality of their community?
Yeah, somewhat, you think.
Because I mean, we're not just locking them up arbitrarily. You have to commit a crime to end up going to jail.
Yeah. This is one that actually got me a little bit more angry because, of course, there was something like this that happened at the University of York.
Yeah.
But as you can see, there is violence against women, violence against global majority, but side by side. And if you see...
Hang on a second. Sorry, hang on. I just have to... So it's the global majority. So isn't definitionally any violence men do to women punching up?
Of course not.
But they're the global majority. They must hold the hegemonic power.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
Sorry,
no,
obviously not. I'm just joking.
No, of course. But in the background, you can actually see a certain movement called Reclaim These Streets.
Yes.
And Reclaim These Streets are famous for basically pointing the finger at men as the systemic cause of everything that led to Sarah Everard's murder, who refuse ardently to define what a woman even is.
Good point.
Yes. But if we move on to the next one...
Have they defined what a man is?
No,
Men are the problem. They'll define man.
They refuse to define it. Could we get the PDF up, which is the very, very last... Yes. So this, I believe, is an exam, a 24-hour assessment that he had to sit. Now, what's actually interesting...
That's rough. Sitting there for 24 hours. with a 1,500 word limit.
Yeah. See, I've never actually experienced this format.
No,
but if you actually scroll down at the options of the questions that you can actually answer, you can begin to see what's going on again.
Perhaps then, if dishonesty is an ordinary word, which as Lord Hughes suggested, is more easily recognised. Number two.
Yes.
Oh yeah, communities of colour and working class communities may see policing as their only protection. But uprisings in the UK sparked by the deaths of George Floyd and a bunch of others have sparked an urgency in re-examining abolitionist alternatives like defunding the police. Police abolition is the only solution to gender-based violence. This is how it could work. Discuss. God damn. Well, you have been sufficiently indoctrinated. Regurgitate.
Yes. So even with renowned legal institutions that you would think would teach future lawyers to actually assess how the law was interpreted for a sense of nuance and perhaps separating it from how critical race theorists are mutilating how we understand the law to apply, they seem to have been somewhat annexed by the Black Lives Matter movement.
It looks that way, doesn't it?
It does look that way.
I mean, what are the alternatives?
Yes.
Like, the alternatives are having no police. I'm sure that working class communities are going to be thrilled with that. Communities of colour are going to be thrilled with that.
They'll be celebrating. And of course, the women will be celebrating when all police are removed from the streets. And all the men masquerading as women can actually do what the hell they like. And then see how much freer and better everything is.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure the women will be most happy about that.
Exactly. What's going to stop future Sarah Everards? You know, who's going to bring them to justice? You know, nothing's going to happen. But I remember watching, I think it was Amy Horowitz or someone like that, a Republican who goes around, ethnic minority areas. I think it was in Detroit or something. And he was just walking up to people and saying, just black people on the street saying, do you think the police should be defunded? They're like, no. No. It's like, no kidding. Yeah. People in Chicago and Detroit actually living in those areas don't want the police defunded.
No, what a dumb idea. Yeah, why would I want that?
They actually said they wanted more police. Yeah. So, what a surprise. Yeah, this is mad. This is mad. It's totally taken over.
So thank you very much for the two people who submitted this to me. I'm very, very grateful. But as you can see, universities don't seem to be educational institutions anymore, or so they seem in these particular cases. The critical race theory and intersectionalism that is unfortunately has had an effect on gender studies courses for some time does seem to be infiltrating the higher level subjects that have considerable institutional weight. And please do keep sending this stuff through to us.
If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast, The Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to subscribe to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as this video, which is Critical Race Theory Explained number 4 from Carl. He's going through and explaining critical race theory, which if you don't know about, you will have to, unfortunately. So go and give it a watch. But if you'd like to find out what else is coming out on the website, you can always follow us on Getter. And for example, you can follow Harry here at Harry Lotus Eater on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.